This morning, we heard from enterprise marketers and global media companies and how they're using data, and in particular, first-party data, to create, to deliver, to measure, and then even to continually optimize the customer experiences that they're delivering across all channels throughout the entire journey. And we're going to kick off this afternoon session with Raji Bedi, the VP of Product Management for the Salesforce DMP, and he's going to talk about the power of cross-cloud applications. But before we do, I'm that guy that gets to read the forward statement. We are going to be making forward statements today, and it's important that you base your purchase decisions on products that are currently available in the marketplace. Should you want to read more of this, you can go to our website. Without further ado, can you roll the video? All right. Please welcome to the stage Raji Bedi, Vice President, Product Management, Salesforce DMP, and a fellow Wolverine brother. Come on up. Come on up. We get a couple gold blues. We're not...
Wow, look at this room. How are we feeling? We feeling good? Feeling full and ready to go? We ready for a product conversation? Come on, let's get some energy in the room. We ready? All right, awesome. My name is Raji Bedi, and we're going to spend the next few minutes together talking about our path together, and our path together as data trailblazers, and how we can use data to meaningfully improve our customers' experience and grow their lifetime value. Now, as a product person, I get so much joy out of meeting with our customers and prospects. It's your vision that drives us. It's your opportunities that excite us. And so imagine our delight in having all of you in the same room together to have such meaningful and intimate conversations together over the next couple of days. So thank you for being here. Now, this is kind of a surreal experience for me because 2 years ago, I was standing on this very same stage as a customer. And I was talking about the power of and the promise of the DMP and the CRM together. Now, the business that we were in benefited from some amount of customer information, and we were able to use that information to build and nourish relationships with our audience. We were able to drive them from awareness to acquisition and to retention. And Salesforce was such an amazing partner of ours to have a lot of success in that area. Now, the thing though is that my experience as a customer was that we were a B2C company, and there were so many intermediaries between us and that end customer. There were distributors and retailers and a bunch of folks just standing in between us and our end customer. Now, while we had amassed many millions of customers within the CRM, our target market was far bigger, in the order of billions of people that were browsing our products, consuming our brand and our media. And they were doing that across all of their devices, online and offline. And we wanted an opportunity to build and nourish relationships with that much wider audience. And so we explored Crux. And Crux, now the Salesforce DMP, allowed us the opportunity to build these relationships at scale. The DMP made that total market addressable. And it sounds simple. We've already talked about it a lot. We'll talk about it some more throughout the next couple of days. But we know that consumers don't make it easy for us, right? You know, they're interacting on all of these different channels and devices. They're interacting online and offline with our brands and products. They are consuming things with sight, with sound, with motion. And it can be really, really difficult to capture and utilize that data at true B2C scale. So our path together is a complicated one. Let's just put that out there. It's not easy stuff, right? So let's take it one step at a time. And our path together today, this conversation that we're going to have, is going to start with the ad channel. Now, advertising, we all spend a lot of money in that channel, so it just makes sense that we start there. Our incredible publishers in the room earn a lot of revenue through advertising. And so how can I utilize data? How can I capture all of that data to be more effective and efficient in that channel? Now, there are three things that we should talk about when you think of the DMP. Right? The DMP enables you with the opportunity to capture this data at enormous B2C scale. Again, as your consumers and customers interact online and offline, we're able to bring all of that signal in to create a profound and significant first-party data asset. Through Link, and hopefully you've spent some time at the campground exploring the Link product. If you haven't, you should. It brings to bear incredibly curated, high-quality second and third-party data assets to further enrich my own data asset. Now, we run all of that information we've collected through an identity graph. And the identity graph tells us that this device and that device have a significant connection. And we form a proxy of a person, anonymously and securely. And why do persons matter, right? Because we've all said countless times, it's not devices that buy things, it's people do, right? And we then take all of that data that's now stitched together on an identity graph, and we allow you to do people-based activation for personalizing, for advertising at unbelievable scale. The Salesforce DMP is tapped into over 200 different partners that allow you to interact with your customers in really, really interesting ways. So three things to take away: data capture, cross-device identity, and data activation. So let's turn these three things into some use cases. So how are our customers using these three primitives to be effective? So we're going to use this framework to get there. The first thing our customers do is they do audience planning. They're stitching together all of this incredible data, these first, second, and third-party assets, to really just better understand their customers. Now, we have customers in L'Oreal and Heineken that just by increasing their ability to reach into their target category, that alone has allowed them to grow penetration in their addressable market. They've grown their category reach in the range of 25 to 30%. People that are in market that they otherwise could not reach to build relationships with. That's unbelievable. Those are real numbers. It gets better. So the next thing our customers do is they use the DMP for discovery. So they're going in and trying to figure out, where do I find my audiences? Now, I've planned, I know who they are, but how do I reach them to build relationships with them? Now, we love telling the story about Conagra and Meredith, two of our favorite customers. Now, Conagra used the DMP to understand their audience. Now they wanted to reach them. And they found that there was some overlap with Meredith's audience. So they reached out through our link team, formed a relationship, and was able to, on Meredith, build a custom experience that included a recipe that had Hunt's tomato sauce. Unbelievable. Now, just that activity alone, led to Conagra seeing a 10% increase in their return on ad spend. They planned, they reached, they personalized. Now, Meredith has done that with not only Conagra, but many of our leading edge marketers. They're allowing them to bring their own data. They're creating custom audiences that are now pertinent to both endemic and non-endemic audiences. And through that activity, they've seen an increase in their annual revenue in the order of 34%. Super exciting. So we've planned, we've discovered. Let's talk about personalizing, right? So I know who you are, and now I have a way to reach you. What do I deliver to you, right? And how do I personalize that so it becomes pertinent and important and relevant and moves you in market? So we have a great customer in PSA Peugeot that has found a way to do personalization really, really well through the Salesforce DMP. As their customers browse between the sites, enter their preferences, explore various styles of cars, they personalize their experience on the way. And the result of that is significant. They're seeing 3 times their average conversion rate just by personalizing those channels. Unbelievable. Now, we spend a lot of time talking about how to do targeting better. Let's spend a few minutes in talking about how to not target better, right? And that's optimize. So as Chris mentioned in his demo, there's enormous power in suppression. And we've got 2 great customers, names you recognize, Kellogg's. Now, Kellogg's came to us and said, I want to do 2 things. I want to figure out what's the right number of impressions to deliver to my audience that's going to lead them to a propensity to engage in the way that I want them to. The analysis returned and said, well, here's the number, and you're far exceeding that number. So through frequency management, they served fewer impressions, just the right number of impressions to reach their audience. The next thing they did is they said, well, half of the internet's traffic comes from bots. So how do I not target bots? Because I'm just wasting my ad spend, on non-humans. That makes logical sense, doesn't it? And so we helped them with those 2 activities, and as a result, they saw $25 million in annual savings. We noticing the numbers here? These are real numbers. This is real power. Now, another customer of ours that's a real pain, Salesforce, uses the DMP to also gain a lot of efficiency and effectiveness. And Salesforce, as a customer, said, I wonder what will happen if I just don't target our employees and existing customers. Now imagine the scale of a company like Salesforce. That activity alone is creating 25% in annual savings. That means 25% of their spend was reaching folks that didn't really need that message. Now, both Kellogg's and Salesforce they're not just chalking that up as savings. They're putting that money back into the top of the funnel to do the right thing at even bigger scale now that they know their audience and where to reach them. So really, really exciting stuff. And finally, the peak of the mountain, orchestrating. Now, wouldn't it be great if I could use the DMP to understand not only what attributes are effective, where to reach them, but also in what order I should build a relationship with my audience? What's the right order of channels and site and app experiences that I can utilize to grow propensity to engage in the way that I'd like? Subaru, great example, Subaru Australia, great example of a company that is orchestrated so effectively that they've seen a 15% increase in their return on ad spend. Big numbers, super exciting. So these are our trailblazers, and a few stories from our trailblazers that have seen enormous success from the Salesforce DMP. Now, As a product person, I like telling stories. Let's do a little bit of that, right? So one of the companies that I love is Northern Trail Outfitters. And it's really because I have a lot in common with Northern Trail Outfitters. Because as a customer, I experienced many of the same challenges. So originally, Northern Trail Outfitters was pretty disconnected from their audience. They didn't really have many direct-to-consumer channels. And through things like sweepstakes and contests, they tried to build a CRM like we've all done. But they wanted to do something better. So they underwent a digital transformation. They found ways to build direct relationships with their customers, both online and offline, to not only better understand them, but nurture relationships with them. Now, as Northern Trail Outfitters went about that journey, like many of us, they knew that even though they had amassed a very significant CRM and they had built relationships directly with many millions of consumers, they really wanted to figure out their total addressable market to grow that number even further. Now, the Marketing Cloud is where you'd start to find ways to reach all of your consumers and your customers through direct channels, like email and social and mobile. So what Northern Trail Outfitters has done is they've assembled, through Ad Studio, a population of people that have engaged meaningfully. Either they've already purchased or they have a propensity to purchase, and they know that through their interaction with Commerce Cloud. Because maybe I failed to mention that Northern Trail Outfitters happens to be a customer of Salesforce from end to end, in sales, in service, in marketing, and DMP. Now, the thing is like I said originally, we want to build a total addressable market. We want to help Northern Trail Outfitters reach the masses, people that are likely to be in market for their product, which are hiking boots in this case. So I'm going to grow my population. I'm going to first start an experience that we call audience discovery. Now, audience discovery is a great place where I can find a couple of things. One is I can see my first-party data here. But better yet, we talk about Link. Link has curated and made fully transparent data from an abundant number of second-party data sources and made them available through this experience. So as our path together continues, what naturally happens is, and this happened to me as a customer, is that I grew to have an insatiable appetite to just do more with data. I wanted more, because I saw the power of it. You saw the numbers. You saw the use cases. And I knew that I was sitting on an enormous amount of first-party data that was stuck within silos of the organization, stuck in my partners' execution systems, stuck within various functions within the organization, that all could be very, very meaningful to me as I get smarter about building customer relationships. And so, to continue that conversation, I would love to invite my dear colleague, Deborah Cadner, to the stage.
Thank you, Raji. So one of the key differentiators of the Salesforce DMP is we do data management. Now, I know that sounds like a bizarre statement to be saying, given we're a DMP, but what I mean is that we're more than just an application for supporting advertising use cases, but we have a purpose-built platform for managing data at scale. We made the decision to build a platform that is optimized for capturing and normalizing and storing a vast amount of information, irrespective of what we thought was interesting or informational at that particular point in time. Now, this approach has proven to withstand the test of time, especially given the advent of AI. Algorithms are hungry and need information to grow on and train on. And we can supply those machines with all sorts of informational signals so that we can answer questions tomorrow that we may not have thought to build for today. So when I talk about data management, I really want you to remember these 3 key points. First, with the Salesforce DMP, we hold all of your data for posterity. And to my knowledge, nobody else is yet doing that in the marketplace. So whether you're using the DMP and Segment Builder to build a segment, maybe need an answer for an RFP that's due this afternoon, or using AI to bubble up new insights to inform some campaign you were going to be doing in the fall launch program, you have all of that historical data from which to draw on. Segments don't start with a population of 0 from the day you think to ask the question, and AI has all of that information to train on from the get-go. Next, with the Salesforce DMP, it's your data. Tom talked about it earlier. You've seen the laptop stickers. You don't have to worry about your data being siloed into various different execution systems. Nobody's skimming it off for other purposes. It's all stored cohesively in one place, ready to be put to use for you. And finally, with the Salesforce DMP, we have software-enabled data governance. We have built-in provisioning tools to allow you to decide who can access and use and share and activate on all of your information, staying in compliance with your own corporate policies. Now, Raji's already walked through some of the sources of value or the use cases for the typical marketer. But in this new data-rich environment, we're seeing the emergence of a new role in marketing organizations. And we like to call this person the technical marketer, or data engineer, if you will. With the Salesforce DMP, we have all the tools and technologies in place to allow that data engineer to get access into his data, ultimately so we can drive deeper relationships with his consumers. Well, how do we do that? It starts with completeness. We are set up to capture a multitude of digital signals, starting from all your website interactions, page views, and events and clicks, onto media information coming from a multitude of channels. This could be ad views or ad exposure and clicks and email opens and social, onto video views and downloads, and mobile app engagement. We can pull in data from HTTP API calls, log files, and of course our own SDK. Now all of that information is unified in a cohesive place into the data lake, and this is where all the algorithms go to town. But we don't stop there, because the data engineer may wish to overlay additional information from these digital signals. This could be offline information, like CRM data coming from Sales and Service Cloud, more detailed product information, category, subcategory, SKU. Could be point of sale information, transactional information. Maybe you have a bunch of historical ticket sale information you want to pump in. And finally, other offline interactions. Maybe you have award program information that would be helpful in determining your highest ranked customers. And all of that, again, is unified in a cohesive place into the data lake. Now, at this point, it's important to note how we store the data. We made the technological decision early on to store all of this unstructured data as data at rest. We are schema on read, not schema on write. And that means you're not boxed into just one way of looking at the data. And this lake can morph and grow and change with new input streams. And all of this data can be queried quickly and flexibly and effectively across to support AI and to nourish data science teams. So finally, let's talk about the different way we may access or consume all this rich information. And there's a variety of different ways of doing this. Your casual user may wish to just use some of the pre-built reports and Segment Builder to build a taxonomy of audiences given the situation at that time, just like Raji was demonstrating earlier. The more technical user may enjoy deeper reports like custom index reports that is delivered up by our own data science teams. However, the more sophisticated users, some of whom you've heard from our clients earlier, will want to get access to all this data that we can deliver in either raw or normalized format via data feeds. And our clients who have their own data science teams take these data feeds and overlay additional information, maybe it's propensity scoring, and they use that to power additional analyses, market basket analysis, multi-touch attribution. Maybe they want to build their own lookalike modeling. And the beauty is that data can then be pumped right back into the Salesforce DMP, further enriching the data lake. But then, why have two lakes? And here's a plug for the later keynote for data science team. We have a data science workbench where we can provide your data science team the ability to use our platform to do all that analysis in one place. But finally, instead of using people, with Einstein, why not let AI decide? Why should we rely on what the questions that we think we need to answer at that particular point in time? Instead, AI, with the benefit of all that historical data, captured across the multitude of digital signals, augmented and enriched by all the other offline sources, and any analyses that's coming in from our data science team or yours, we can let AI surface and supply us with new insights and audiences to drive our businesses even further. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Raji to show you what that looks like.
Thank you, good job. All right, I see a lot of phones out. Let's take a picture of this thing, right? Because we talk about, DMP, data management platform, but let's take away that the Salesforce DMP is actually good at data management. Imagine that, right? So we talked about capturing all of this data, anonymized data, enriched data, and storing it for posterity as a data asset, watching that asset grow over time. Data that you own, by the way. So you thought you were data starved? Oh no, you are data rich, baby. And by the way, you provisioned even more data through Link to feed into that asset. Now the coolest thing about this is that the main beneficiary of all of this data is AI. AI needs data to train on and to learn from and to act on. So I'm a product guy. Should we talk about roadmap? So I want to make it very, very clear to this audience, and maybe this is something you tweet out with #DataMatters. We have every intention of remaining the best in class DMP in the market. Every intention. And all of our energy, all of our calories are spent on that topic. And as we think about that, there's certain themes. We want to help our publishers and our marketers be better, more efficient, and productive in that advertising channel, in that content channel, to personalize their experiences and nourish relationship with their total addressable market. We want to improve that user experience because, as you all know, the attention you're paying to this within your organization is only growing. And so we want to enable your teams with a more intuitive user experience so they can land on day one and do the right thing and be effective. We're investing time and energy into that. User experience also means reliability. We want to make sure that what you think is happening is actually happening and delivering the results you expect. And speed. We want to make sure that we're operating at the cadence of your business to deliver you with the ability to activate and learn as fast as you'd like. Now, ultimately, we also talked about intelligence. We're only taking on more intelligence, driving AI onto the DMP. So not only can you use your intuition, you can complement that intuition with AI and learn more about your audiences. What we're working on in parallel is greater connectivity with the entire full Salesforce platform. What that means is every channel. We just talked about it. Sales, service, commerce, etc. How do we build connectivity across the entire consumer and customer lifecycle, which brings about identity? How do we coalesce all of this information around identities? And ultimately, trust. So we're spending a lot of time figuring out how do we do the right thing in a trustworthy, privacy-safe, and compliant way that still delivers all this value to the entire ecosystem. And that's the customer-centric data platform that moves channels to the periphery, puts the customer at the center, and changes the entire user experience of how you build relationships with that audience, using intelligence to instruct and inform and to interact. So again, product person, I've gotten certain things. I like visuals. Let's look at one. So, isn't this cool? So we started with advertising, right? And through the Salesforce DMP, we've made addressable all of these audiences that are interacting with your brand, your media, your products in an anonymized way, online and offline. And that's starting to form a really interesting data lake. And by the way, a data lake that you own. It's your data. But if you think about it, it's still shallow. So our vision grows and says, with the full power of Salesforce, I can increase the depth and the dimension of this data lake to look across every single touch point and feed that into this data lake. Only gets better with Link. With Link, not only can I provision data outside, I can provision data in a policy-controlled way. I can bring second-party data in and do some really interesting things with that after enriching my data asset. Okay? So let's spend a second to talk about what's happening with this hydroelectric power plant. I wanted to say that because it sounds really smart. And the energy that it's producing in this grid that you see, right? What's happening there? And so our vision is that all of this is coalescing around a couple of different things. So we're going to bring all this together, the themes that we've talked about over the past few minutes. The first being channels, okay? With the full power of Salesforce, all channels are in play. Not just advertising channels, all channels. We've talked about a complete data asset, stored for posterity, data that you own, and additional data that's provisioned through Link. And ultimately, AI. Now, none of these things alone are really all that interesting. I mean, we've talked about we can do some really cool stuff with them. But what if we were actually able to stitch it all together? And when we start doing that, we really see sparks flying. So what's happening when all this comes together? We envision a world where segments are only getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We envision a world where AI is only getting faster and faster and faster. Now, if channels are on the periphery here, what's in the center? It's the thing that we care about the most, right? It is our audience, right? And the thing that we care about most is driving that audience to meet real business outcomes. That's the thing that matters the most. So AI is training on all of these channels and using data to adapt journeys and precisely identify the next best action as new signals come in at runtime. We're moving away from channel-specific relationships where I spend $1 million in email, I spend $1 million in display, $1 million in social. That's evolving. And it's saying, you know what? I just want to do the right thing for the customer. Pick a channel and tell me through AI what's the right channel in the right order with the right message. That might mean that our organizations need to realign so that we're not fighting for attention from the same consumer and going after the same share of wallet, but rather the entire organization is aligned and orchestrated around driving true customer success. And we all know in this room that we may not be aligned that way within the organization. That's going to change the way marketers and publishers interact. Are we ready for the $1,000 click? Right? Where at that precise moment, the marketer knows that it's going to drive that consumer and improve their propensity to purchase, and all they want is to buy that click. Publishers, be ready, right? So there is a lot changing and a lot that needs to happen as a part of this vision and making it true. We have every plan to make it true, but that does not happen without your help. You are the data trailblazers. We're doing this because we've seen this come across in your vision and the opportunities you see. So as a product member, I want to enroll you. And I want to enroll you in that vision to make sure we're doing the right thing. We're investing time and energy in the right places. So I'm really excited to spend these next couple of days with you. I'd love to learn from you, get feedback from you, so we can build this vision and reach new heights together. The last thing I want to do is draw your attention to a keynote coming up very shortly that really clicks into our ability to use AI through Einstein to improve our consumer relationships. That's all I have. Thank you.